Welcome to PsyABC's, where you get all of your psychology information from A to Z. This is Dr. Elizabeth Reyes-Fournier.
And Dr. Paul Reyes-Fournier.
Welcome again. Last week we were talking about, gosh, I forgot what we were talking
Oh, something brilliant and important. I wonder what it was.
about.
What did we talk about last week?
This is going to have to be
'Cause we
cut
brought
out
up,
because I don't remember.
yeah, right. We brought
We
up
talked about-
heuristics.
Yeah.
Um,
We were talking about Dunning-Kruger.
Dunning-Kruger, right.
Okay. So, last week we were talking about Dunning-Kruger.
Right.
And
Which is a cognitive bias.
Which is a cognitive bias. It is labeled as a cognitive bias. And during our fun talk, Paul mentioned Bayes' theorem.
Yes.
And specifically Bayesian statistics. And I know you're thinking, oh, good God, they're going to talk about math.
And we are.
Yes. But not like what you think.
Yeah.
Bayes' theorem is actually an idea. It's a theory of how we process information, and
Well, it's related to that.
related to that, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because
it's been applied to so many different things
right.
that it's important to understand because we tend to think, unfortunately, and this has a lot to do with psychology, we tend to think that human beings are A plus B equals C.
Right.
So we tend to think that somebody rings a bell, we salivate, and then we get reinforced with food. Actually, that's not the right thing. I just said something really, really wrong. And you're like, wait, I don't know the difference. But we tend to think that there's a stimulus response.
Right.
That we are these. The stimulus, which was the Pavlovian experiment all those years ago. Ivan Pavlov noticed that whenever he brought food out to his dog would salivate, and then he would eat his food, and then he wondered if there was a way to get him to do that same reaction without the food.
Yeah.
So he paired the response of the salivation with a bell. And pretty soon, when the dog would hear the bell, he'd start salivating because he knew he was going to get food. Now, so we have that, what we understand
Quick
as...
little side note, if you've never looked up Pavlov's dog and seen the apparatus, right? The actual experiment, don't look it up.
Don't look it up.
If you're a dog person, don't look it up.
It's really...
He doesn't hurt the dog. He's just got him trussed up and collecting saliva, and it's just like, oh.
It's not as cute as you think it is going to be, because it's not.
Yeah.
But this is what we call classical conditioning.
Yes.
And we have all sorts of ways that we're classically conditioned. One of the ways that I know that I was classically conditioned, in school, is that when you heard the bell, you got up to go.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's interesting because we have that in many different circumstances. Like fire alarms are bells, which is already something that's ingrained in us, especially if you're an American, that it's time to get up and go.
Right.
So fire alarms, school bells, even church bells, get up and go. Then you have operant conditioning, which is saying that you have a stimulus, and then if you are reinforced, you're going to continue to respond in a certain way, and that we have positive and negative reinforcement. So, for some reason, human beings think that our behavior is really linear.
Right. So let's take the math now. Let's do the math part of that.
Right.
Traditional statistics, what you would see in most scientific journals, etc., use what's considered frequentist statistics. Okay. What this means is that when an event, whatever it is, that the dog salivating, when that event happens, there is no relationship between when it happens and if it happens again. So, for example, if I flip a coin and I get heads, and then I flip it a second time, there's no relationship between the two. The
Right.
fact I got heads the first time
Right.
has nothing to do with whether I'm going to get heads or tails the
Yeah.
second time.
And
Okay?
this is, but this is, I interject here, go to say, and yet, this is one of the cognitive biases we're going to talk about today,
Right.
that people assume that it's going to be 50-50.
Yes.
And that's not
Yeah.
really what
Actually, people assume that if I got heads the last time,
it's going to be
that
tails.
it's more likely to be tails.
Right.
Okay? Where that's not true.
That's not true at all.
Right.
Because it
really-
doesn't matter. It didn't
Yeah.
matter. It's not like you're going to, anything changed between the first time it flipped
Right.
and the second time
Or
it
that
flipped.
there's any relationship.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So that's actually the mathematical premise
right.
of traditional statistics.
Well,
frequentist-
the mathematical, it's also, when we say what's frequentist, we're looking at how many times something happens.
Right.
So we look at the averages.
Yeah.
A
But
frequentist,
you're right.
yeah.
The point here is that the thing you were talking about, that conditioning, for example, as an example, each of those are considered discrete events.
Right.
Okay, where they don't affect another event of the same type.
Right.
Okay? There's no relationship. So all you're doing is counting how many times did this happen.
Right.
Okay, and you're taking an average and you're doing all the manipulations that we love to do in statistics. But the idea is that there is no relationship between the first time it happened, the second time it happened, the third time it happened, etc. That those are each discrete individual points, and they're on their own.
Right.
Okay? This is important because the Bayesian, Bayesian does not have that premise.
Right.
Okay? And that's where we're going with that.
And this is where things get more human.
Yeah.
Ricky, this is where you pause. You need to close the door if you're going to do anything in the kitchen. Close this door or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. The differences come in math and Bayesian theorem when you compare the way that they're done. Frequentists, we tend to, especially all maths usually that we do in statistics look like a bunch of averages, a bunch of how many times does this number come up, which is the mode. We look at what number's in the middle, which is the median. That's really the number we're looking at. That and the standard deviation. Those are the numbers we look at the most, right?
Right.
Whereas Bayes looks at things more, and I think it's generally our opinion, in a more humanistic
The application, definitely.
application.
Yes. So again, if we're going to do it Bayes was a mathematician, a 17th century mathematician.
Yeah.
Okay, so
this wasn't recent.
This was not recent, and this isn't like Bayes wanted to create this grand holistic thing. Okay, he was just doing what mathematicians do. Okay,
Right.
He was doing hey, what about probabilities? What happens if something does affect it?
Right.
Okay? That's what he was doing, and he was doing the math. And actually, his base equation, if you look it up as Bayesian, as Bayes' formula, is a relatively simple formula. It's got 3 factors. I think 2 on the top and 1 on the bottom. So it's a couple of probabilities. Well, it's actually 3 probabilities of events happening.
Right.
But, and this is where I think you were going, the implications and the applications of Bayes' theory, that becomes very humanistic, very system-oriented. It starts looking at a lot of stuff.
Right.
Okay?
So, in plain English.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I know. Paul doesn't speak in plain English. He was talking about a formula, and I'm like going, yeah, dude, that's not going to happen. When you have a problem, okay, according to Bayes, there is the probability says that there's a prior or a priori or a prior,
Mhm.
and then you're introduced with new data, and then you either update that prior, and then you create what's called a posterior probability.
Mhm.
Now, let's put this in a general example. Um, I walk into the store, and I know that um, in all the stores I've walked into, in the grocery stores I've walked into, the carts are going to be on the left hand side.
Mhm.
So I create a general prior belief
Mhm.
that when I walk into a grocery store, all of the carts should be on the left hand side.
Now, notice that the language there is not what we would say not discrete. It is general kind of
Yeah,
language. It should be, okay, because the
right,
prior is a probability.
right.
Okay, it's a this
It's what I'm
bell
used to.
curve.
Yeah, but
It's
I'm
what
just
you're
going to go,
used
it's what
to,
I'm used to.
right?
It's really the average. Once again, we're
Yeah,
talking
right.
about my normal
Yeah,
belief, my average
right.
belief
This
is
is going to be
this
to
is
the
the way
left,
it's going to be
right?
because
It's
it's
going to
always
be to
like
the
that.
left. Yeah,
Right, it's going to be
right.
on the left.
Your world is not going to shatter if it's
No,
not,
yeah,
but you'll look right. But
right.
the odds are in your brain that it's most likely going to be
Most
on the
likely
left
going to
side.
be on the left.
Yeah.
So when I walk in, like, we tend to travel a lot, and Paul and I love going into grocery
Oh
stores
yeah.
because, especially if you're in a weird, a different
Yeah, right.
country,
Different.
definitely go into a
Mhm.
grocery store
Yeah,
because that's just fun.
and you understand the culture.
Yeah, and you
You start
understand the
getting
culture
so
and
much
the
information about that
weirdness, and
culture. It's great.
and you're like, oh my gosh, look how cheap that is, or
Yep.
my God, are you kidding?
Yes.
Like go to France and look at their wines,
Oh
which are they just call wine because it's not French wine, it's
yeah.
just
Yes.
wine,
Uh-huh.
and look at the
Yeah.
prices and go, you got to be kidding me.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so I'll look to the, I will automatically walk into a store, look to the left because my prior belief says it's there. If I look to the left with the new data and there is nothing on the left, I'm going to start scanning for more information because now my priors have been like thrown off. It's
The
not,
new data is now called in Bayesian statistics. It's called a likelihood.
yeah.
Okay? So
So
now new data is coming in, and there's these likelihoods,
it's not on the left anymore.
right? And it must be somewhere else.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere else.
Right.
Is it in front of me? Is it
Right.
on the right hand side? And so, what that does is that it starts shaping my behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? It starts going, okay, wait a second. So, maybe, in my own understanding, and this is happening all in the background in your brain,
And very quickly.
very quickly because we don't have time to be standing there, doing the Jeopardy theme, wondering where the carts are. You're gonna scan, find them, and go, hey, maybe this idea that I had, this belief that I had, isn't really right.
Mm-hmm.
And the cart can literally be anywhere or nowhere, and they just have baskets.
Right.
So all of these things I have been taken into account to create a new belief that becomes your new prior, and then on and on and on.
Right.
So we could
That's
do
the
this,
called the posterior.
the posterior,
Right.
but the posterior then becomes
It's
the
a new
prior
for
if
a
you
new
accept
belief
it.
system. Right.
If
Exactly.
you accept it. So now, if we bring this into, why this is important to understand, is that one of the things that we're learning is that we aren't really what you would call um, reactive people.
No.
That neuroscience specifically is showing us that human beings aren't reactions. And understand that prior to this, like let's go before 2000,
Mm-hmm.
everything was telling us, well, most theories were saying that we were stimulus response.
Right.
Stimulus response. You are, something happens, you're responding to it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody calls you a jerk, you're going to say something. and it's the stimulus response. That's who we are.
Right.
Well, that's not what the neuroscience is saying.
No.
The neuroscience is saying that human beings are actually prediction models, that we are constantly predicting what is going to happen. Therefore, we are coming up with how to behave.
Right. This is called the Bayesian brain theory, by
Right.
the way.
And it also fits into a lot of different theories and theories that I appreciate greatly, like Lisa Barrett Feldman's theories of constructed emotions.
Right.
It just makes more sense than being that reactive person. Now, remember, I come from the point of view of being a therapist. If we are simply stimulus response, then the idea of breaking that is hard, right? Like, that's not, if we don't have a mechanism that would break a stimulus response thing. It's like, because according to operant conditioning, Skinner would say, well, if you don't get reinforced anymore, you're not going to respond that way anymore.
Right.
Well, let's say you continue to get reinforced. Maybe that reinforcement that you like is attention, whether it's negative attention, positive attention, whatever it is. So why would you ever change that behavior?
Yeah. Right.
Right. This is where the problem is, because a lot of the reinforcement that we get for our negative or irrational behaviors does tend to keep reinforcing it.
Right. Yes.
Remember, any reinforcement increases behavior. Punishment stops behavior. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, they all increase behavior. Okay. So,
and even with that stimulus response, if you take the stimulus response and put it within the Bayesian paradigm, then what ends up happening is that you have more than one stimulus response situation.
Right.
And that's actually has been one of the biggest critiques of Skinnerian behavioralism.
Right.
That was too linear.
Yeah.
That human beings have a lot of things that are stimulus, and therefore a lot of response.
This is okay. So now this is where we get all our wokey stuff in. It's like looking for a cause for autism. It's like there is no magic bullet here.
Right.
Human beings don't work like a magic bullet.
Yeah.
There is no, there is no one thing that can
the odds
cause.
Of that are going to be very slim.
Very slim. Yeah. Like for example, like let's take smoking causes cancer. We know this now because the science says smoking causes cancer.
Right.
However, we know for a fact that there are people that smoke from the time they are 12 to the day they die, and they never get cancer.
That's right.
And why is that? Well, because that causal factor of smoking is just one thing.
Right. It's one of the factors.
One of the factors that actually causes the cancer. The most important one is the genetic predisposition for these things. Right. And then you have other environmental causes. Did you grow up in a smoking household? Therefore, damaging your lungs.
Not to mention also the preventative factors.
Yeah, like did you live a healthy life? Did you not live in a place that had toxic waste? All of these things, that fit into that. So this idea of this linear thinking, and I have to, and I have to use this language, it is so elementary school. It is so. Really is. You've got to be kidding me that you actually think, like, when you see that the number one cause of death for children is gun violence, that's an easy one.
Yeah, right.
That was a child who was alive, and now that child is no longer alive.
Right, that's pretty
What
linear.
was the difference? Yeah. The bullet.
Yeah.
The bullet was the thing that unalived that child.
Right.
Acetaminophen is not causing autism.
Mm-hmm.
Autism existed long before acetaminophen
Right.
ever came to play.
Yeah, we just didn't call it that.
We just didn't call it that. People were just awkward. They were weird. They had, everybody had their favorite dinosaurs or rocks or their favorite thing to talk about. This has been going around forever. Most scientists that we know historically were considered awkward and weird. Geniuses, like, Beethoven was awkward and weird. Mozart was extremely awkward and weird. And he had so many of the hallmarks of neurodiversity that you're like, well, obviously. And no, there was no acetaminophen in the world at that time.
Nope.
So why do I bring it up? Because obviously I'm going on a rant. We are parents of somebody on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And we have 3 kids. Only one is on the spectrum. And you want to know something? I've never taken acetaminophen. Well, that's not true. I never started taking acetaminophen until I stopped having kids.
Yeah, right.
Because it just, Tylenol's never worked for me. So, it's like, it's a different, that is a different topic altogether because we can get into teratogens on a different day. But anyway.
Being with Bayesian stuff. Okay.
Back to the Bayesian thing. The idea that let's bring it into human behavior. If we look at it, Bayesian's theorem as human behavior, it is we have a prior belief and we're introduced with new data or something that conflicts with that belief.
Yeah, new data. No matter what, it's just new data.
New data.
Right.
Something that, like we mentioned with scientific method.
Right.
It's like something new came up.
Right.
Does it fit with my old belief? Yes, no.
Right.
If it doesn't fit into my old belief, I got to look at my old belief and go, huh. Right. Or I either reject the new data or assimilate the new data. Right?
Exactly.
And create a new belief. Right?
Now, things that we have to point out here. When we're talking about specifically Bayesian stuff, all of this is probabilities.
Yeah.
So we, right now I'm making a little finger curve, talking about the bell curve. Okay, that's one of the things that, mathematically we talk about a normal distribution, which is a bell curve. It kind of looks like a little hat. For those of you who
like a bowler
can't,
hat.
right, like a bowler
hat.
Those of you who can't
see
my little finger happening, okay, where that center is that average. Is
the majority of
right,
us,
as you were mentioning. And then the 2 ends are less probable. Okay, and they dwindle off to
infinitesimal.
Right,
infinity.
Right, but they're never 0.
Yeah.
Okay, as far as
the probability is
math.
always there.
Right.
But it is so small that it's just mostly a point and like a bajillion zeros.
Right.
But it's never not a possibility.
Right. So then, when we start making these new belief systems based on the Bayesian stuff, we are not making the perfect average belief, or in again math speak, it's not a discrete belief. What we're doing is we're actually creating a probabilistic belief,
right?
Where maybe our average has moved, but we still think that most of the time the cards are on the left.
Right.
Okay. It's just that maybe less of the time now.
Yeah.
I'm
still going to look to the left.
Right. They're not as lefty. Okay.
I'm still going to look to the left.
Yeah.
But because there's a part of human nature where we really cling on to those beliefs.
Right. We don't change our mind real easily.
No, we don't.
Okay. We just shift.
Right.
Slowly.
We like to. Okay. People don't like to be wrong. I know this is controversial.
Yeah.
People don't like to be wrong. And even when, given new data and shown, hey, this is the truth, they're like, well, that's not what, and then they will actually reject the truth.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to start with a bias that is just one of my favorites, mainly because It is just so obscenely stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Hindsight bias.
Mm, okay.
And why would I start with hindsight bias? Well, this is your Monday morning quarterbacking thing. Like when you know, you get to work and you're wet, because it started raining, and your coworkers are like, you know, well, why didn't you bring an umbrella? And then you're like, well, there was nothing in the weather that said it was going to
Right.
rain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, had you looked up, up into the sky, you would have figured that out. And it's like, there's no clouds.
Mm-hmm.
Why would have I assumed that?
Yeah.
So it's this idea that you think you're a lot smarter than you really are. Again, this fits into the Dunning-Kruger stuff.
Yes. Very
It's
much
the
so.
idea that, well, I would have known that they were going to make that play, and that's why I would have done that.
Right.
Or I would have, been prepared for
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Why didn't they know this could possibly happen?
Right. With and the reality here is that they didn't have all the information you have.
Of course.
Obviously, that is
Of course.
the
The hindsight bias
Right.
is based on this idea that had you have every piece of information, you would have made different decisions. But since those people did not have every piece of the information, they couldn't have made that decision. However, everybody out there, especially those who have all these, these, um, how do you would say, these convictions of like, oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know who's bad. You're like,
Uh-huh.
how do you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I could tell in their eyes that they were bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's something shifty about
Yeah.
them. Really?
Yes.
Never had any issues before. Yeah, but I could tell.
Uh-huh.
And this, it's like they're ready to pounce on anything where it shows up like, somebody gets arrested. Well, I knew that guy was weird. I knew it.
Remember, the cognitive biases are errors in thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't make sense, and that is kind of the point.
Right.
Okay. They actually go against the data, the facts. That likelihood part is where you start looking at the likelihood and the Bayesian stuff and go, okay, I am going to actually change the likelihood so that my posterior still matches my prior. Okay, so now you're actually messing with the data, in other words, to be right.
To be right. And we do pretty much everything to be right.
Yes.
And when people say things, because we get asked a lot, like, how do we change somebody's mind? No. You can't.
Right. And
you can't change anybody's mind. They have to change their mind.
Right.
And very little that we can do at some point is going to change people's minds, because I don't know what, again, I don't know what the magic bullet is on that one. Because if that were true, then, people would be flocking to me.
Keeping it within this Bayesian thing, you don't really change people's minds.
Yeah.
The best that's going to happen is that the probability is going to shift a little bit.
Right.
So the curve is going to skew to one side a little bit more in the direction that you would consider changing a mind.
Right.
So less likely are you going to get, oh, I was wrong, you're right. Up is down, down is up, whatever it is. You're not going to get that. The best that may happen is going to be that little shift. That, oh, you gave me something to think about.
Right.
Okay? You paused me enough to, those are really the changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, based on Bayes, our priors are very important to us.
Oh, yeah.
Our priors are like, that is your operating system. Okay? And this is actually a different bias called availability heuristics.
Yes.
That this idea that Well, based on what I know already,
Mm-hmm.
nothing else can actually penetrate
Right.
what's gonna, this my prior won't take in new data.
No. Right.
That, the new data is just completely like, no, it doesn't.
No. Right. I have no space.
I
I
have
have
no space for
no
that. And this is
criteria,
what
no
we're talking
category.
about
Yeah.
changing somebody's mind.
Yeah.
That, I was watching, there's content creator, I think it's like a son and a daughter who have a podcast or something with their parents, and the son and the daughter on the left, and the parents are like super on the right.
Hmm.
And I can't see how anybody can watch that and think that their parents are okay,
Right.
because the father literally says things like, "There is nothing you can say to me
Mhm.
that's going to change my mind.
Right. Yeah.
I already know."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coming from a family where, having a parent that said, 99.9% of the, and he would just spout these statistics that meant absolutely nothing, as this is how I know.
Yes. Right.
This is, this is the reality, and you just don't know that. And anything with facts was met with a chuckle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh,
Right.
that's so ridiculous. That is so, for people like that,
Mm-hmm.
there is no changing of the mind.
So let's look at it. Look at that one as a, how do you put it? Like a global person, as a whole human being.
Right.
Okay. So there's no. I don't think that there's any mystery here that we are not big fans of Trump. Okay.
What?
So what a big
What?
surprise. And yes, I am way underplaying it, but because I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So if the goal is to have a hardcore Trump supporter change their mind,
Right.
okay, look at what that would do for a person's whole being. Okay, this would not simply be a, I'm just going to become a, Democrat, or I'm going to become independent, or I'm just not going to vote for him. It would not just be that. It would have to change their whole worldview underneath that. Okay? So suddenly now you're changing all of the belief systems and behaviors that have built this person.
Right. And including things like your community, your
Yes.
societal standing, and your relationship standings. Everything is going to be affected by a change in that belief system.
Right. Yeah.
That this, I've explained to people in the past that having a Trump supporter, which as a professional, I can say this is a cult and there's no other way.
Yeah. Right.
There's no other,
Absolutely.
the way that these people come out of this cult is literally the same way that we take people out of real cults.
Yes.
Right.
Right. That
religious cult.
Or
it's an escape. It's
right.
considered this, they have to get deprogrammed.
Yeah. Right.
They're it's like, it reminds me of like when I'm Cuban, and when my uncle came out of Cuba in the late 80s, he had been incredibly indoctrinated. He had been in the Cuban military. He had served the Cuban government for a long time. And he was a communist, big time communist, until he wasn't. And then he was attacked, harassed, and all this stuff for years and years and years until he got out of Cuba. So when I met this man, after like a couple of meetings, and this is like already when I was already dating Paul, he was looking through my books, and I had an astronomy book.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled it out of my shelf, and there was a picture of an astronaut floating on the back of the astronomy book. Now, mind you, I don't know what astronaut it was. It was just a really cool picture.
Right. And let's just say this was not a modern book.
No,
this was an old.
This is This is the 1980 something.
Right.
So it was just an astronaut floating in space.
Yes. Right.
But he just looked at me and he said, "Did this really happen?" And I go, "What?" And then he goes, "In Cuba, they say that, we never landed on the moon. Did this really happen?" And I said, "Of course it did. We've been to space a lot."
Yeah, right.
By that point, they were doing
Mm-hmm.
shuttle missions and stuff like that. Like, yeah, they've got people living in space on a space station. So, yeah, it's happening right now. And he just looked at me and broke down.
Mm-hmm.
And he just was like crying. He goes, I have been lied to my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to come up with new understandings of the world because I've been lied to my whole life.
Yep.
And you could see this crumbling of like,
of a persona.
Yeah. Because sure, in the beginning, yeah, he was probably anti-communist, but he never became a rabid, before he got to the States, he wasn't a rabid, anti-communist.
No, right.
He just didn't like them anymore because they beat the crap out of him.
Right, yeah.
But then at that point, it was like this, everything's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was a lie. And he had to come up with a new personality, a new way of being.
Yeah.
And that's what these people coming out of the Trump thing do. That you see them doing things like burning their merch, all of their flags, and their hats and their shirts and all of the, and then realizing all of the things that they've said, and and all of that is like this conviction of like, oh my God, what a horrible thing I've done and been, and I apologize. It's like all the Cubans right now that are getting deported.
Right.
They're like, oh, I was lied to. Yes, you were.
So when we are talking about like changing somebody's mind, it's important to look at the profundity of that.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not talking about just changing, one little thing. You're talking about asking them to change everything about them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's big.
That's
okay. Now, I'm not saying
a belief system. It's like people deconstructing
system.
Christianity.
Yeah.
It's like all of those things.
Right.
It's an identifier.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's an identifier. Right. It's like somebody coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
And saying their truth and saying, this is who I am.
Right. This is huge.
This is a huge thing.
Now, I am not saying that we should stop. Putting up the fight and the facts and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely not.
That is, but I do want to temper it with, again, we're science-based. So this is the science. The science is going to move slowly, at least until it hits a threshold.
Yeah.
There is a whole group of things called threshold theory that really talks, it's part of decision-making and that kind of stuff. And it really talks about that we will...
You get to a point.
Right. We slowly make decisions until we hit a threshold. We get that to the point, and then we jump off.
Right.
From there it goes fast.
And then, but then there's the other things. We slowly make decisions. Now, let's separate the two things.
Yes.
We slowly make decisions on things that are based wholly on our belief systems.
Right.
Okay? Some of us don't have belief systems that are that set in stone. Some of us have, our priorities just don't really, you can't trigger a response because you just don't care. Like, for example,
which is actually a belief system.
Yeah. Paul and I do not hold firm beliefs on things like, we need to have a house and it needs to look like this, and we need to have a pool and we need to have it like that, and we have to show our wealth or whatever in a certain way. We don't care about that. We've never cared about that, and it really bugs certain people about that. It's like, well, why do you live like this? Or like, why don't you buy something or whatever? It's like, yeah, I've done that before. And quite frankly, it's a pain in the ass, and I didn't really like it. And I like this, freedom of being able to. My priority is more about my freedom
Mm-hmm.
than it is about being normal,
Right.
right? And then, so for some things we just don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
You can change my mind.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
change my mind about things like
Mm.
things like, hey, have you ever tasted this kind of food? No, not really. Would you take a bite? Obviously, I'll take a
Right.
bite because I
So
don't.
if we're going to compare the
The belief
the
systems.
belief systems give data that feeds into our decision making model.
Right.
Right. So that's we have this belief system that certain things are not that important.
Yeah.
We've identified a bunch of them. I
A
won't
bunch
say
of
all,
them,
but
yeah.
a bunch of them. Those feed into our decision making model, and then from there things start to flow.
Right.
Okay, until
Yeah.
we come up with a decision.
I was reading this thing. I read, our kid is getting married in a week. So
Yay.
it's because of that, I have my availability heuristics are all about marriages, weddings. So whenever my sensations are picking up anything about marriage, like, I see something or whatever, I listen and or read it because I'm in high wedding mode, right? So I have read, I don't know how many times in the last 6 months about, why doesn't he care what color of the napkins are? Why doesn't she care where we go on a honeymoon? Why doesn't he care about, this? Or why don't they care about that? And it's so fascinating to me because it doesn't matter, like that's the answer.
Yes.
And for some people, it's such a like crushing thing. Why don't you care that people are looking at you like that? You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's a, if the napkin doesn't match the silverware, who cares?
Yeah, right.
Right?
That's
One person is saying, who cares? The other person's like, my whole personality is wrapped around this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the discord comes with, couples getting married and stuff like that, because you don't have the same priorities. When our oldest when they got engaged, it was like, oh, we really don't care what the wedding's going to be like. And we really don't care about that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just put one together and whatever. And then this week, it was, the spouse to be's mom was like, well, about, the flowers, we're ordering flowers. And then our kids all about, I want to see the flowers.
Oh, yeah. Suddenly they cared.
They cared all about it. What kind of flowers are we talking about? What specific? And I'm like, orange. Yeah. They're orange. Yeah. But, it's like, because that was important to them. So, and then, of course, because they're on the spectrum, I have to do my little side conversations of let it go.
Yes, right. Or communicate it.
Or communicate differently.
Better, right.
Yes, but also it's you get what you get and don't get upset, because if you really cared about the flowers, we would have done this months ago.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, learning to let it go.
Yeah.
But
there's also the part of it, not everybody has your same opinion or eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Like orange is
the color.
Orange.
I don't know flowers.
You said you wanted
orange. I am a girl.
These are
I
orange.
don't know flowers. But my kid knows their flowers, and they wanted specific flowers that aren't available yet because they don't grow at this time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, had you known what that flower was, you'd know that they weren't growing at this time. Right. Personally, I don't give two craps. Yes. But hey, orange, it matches your colors.
Yes.
So I found that to be, but let's talk about the most obvious ones.
Okay.
Like the obvious bias.
Okay.
Confirmation bias.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. This is, why can't you change a Trumper's mind? Because they have been indoctrinated, and their propaganda has been telling them for years that you cannot trust the facts.
Mm-hmm.
They were told about alternative facts,
Yeah.
and that the elite liberal media is lying to them. This is why they can only watch their news,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Fox or any of the other stupid news stations, or news purveyors that only show right-leaning things, and they will only look at that.
Right.
And the reason for that is because it fits perfectly with their priors,
Yes.
with their belief system.
Right.
I only read things that align with my beliefs. This is why they will always say to you, really? Where'd you get that?
Uh-huh. Right.
And if you say anything other than Fox News or whatever, they're like, oh, of course, liberal media.
So bringing it now back to Bayes' theorem.
Right.
So the likelihood is where the data comes in.
Right.
The likelihood is bounded by parameters, and that is mathematically there is it's bounded, so that only things within those parameters are allowed. So, like in this case, only Fox News is allowed.
Right.
And thus it limits the data, and it makes it so that the person doesn't need to manipulate the data in their head.
Right. It's easier.
It's easier.
You know, I mean, remember that the brain's function is to make it easy for you. This is why it's predicting things like, hey, this is probably going to happen. This is probably going to happen. Because they don't want you to expend a lot of energy. So if I'm only reading things that do not challenge me,
right?
You know, I'm still reading Dick and Jane books because they don't challenge me. Then, hey, this works. So if you tell me, hey, I found this in a place that's a little bit more complicated than Dick and Jane, it's like, nah, I don't want. I don't need to know that.
As always, I am going to say we all do this. This is not just a Trump thing. This is not a MAGA thing.
And the reason is because it's uncomfortable for everybody.
Right.
Being shown, okay, like, you know, with Charlie Kirk's, you know, tragic death. Trying to have a conversation about Charlie Kirk, like, because he's like two people. These guys, oh my God, he was the second coming, and, you know, he's the 13th apostle, and it's like, and then the other side is, did you watch the same videos we watched?
Right. Yeah.
Because we've been seeing clips of this dude for 10 years now, where nothing that came out of his mouth wasn't racist or misogynistic or xenophobic or Christian nationalist or any of these things. What? How dare you?
Yes. Right.
So it's like, what are we talking? Are we talking about the same person? Well, no, we're not, because you've been fed a steady diet of the Christian Charlie Kirk, and we've been fed a steady diet of this guy talking about black women as if they don't have enough brain capacity.
Exactly.
And we're talking about highly educated black women who have way more brains than, you know, than any of these people do. And you're like, you're questioning their intelligence? You know, how racist can you get? It is quite, it's uncomfortable for me to watch them talk about him being holy, because I don't see that.
Exactly. Yes. And that is one, something I do encourage, if our listeners, out there are, or no matter what, whether you're liberal or conservative.
If they were conservative, they're not listening.
Yeah, right. I know. I'm trying here. I'm saying.
I know.
Right.
Go ahead.
But, expand your mind.
Yeah.
Okay? Expand those parameters.
Right.
We obviously are big on critical thinking.
Right.
And on finding, looking at facts for what they are. Okay? They are facts. So, yes, expand your mind.
Right.
Don't limit yourself, because, we're, even as liberals, we do the same thing. This is a human condition. This is not a not a only them. Now,
Now, but hold on.
that
But
is right.
the
Now,
second
that
part of
being
this,
said,
wait. I always say, cite your sources.
Mhm.
Where's your data from?
Yes.
It's like when I say cite your sources, I want a real source.
Yes.
I don't need you to get it from MSNBC for
Mhm.
me or the DNC or anything else. I want you to cite peer-reviewed journal articles. I want you to cite,
Right.
the CDC. Well, not this CDC, but
Yeah.
prior CDCs. I want you to cite, Pew Research.
Mhm.
I want you to cite,
Right.
real data.
Right. Things with appropriate authority
Right.
to be
So,
able to speak on this.
Understand when we when this started. Now I've always been a little bit more passionate about politics than Paul.
Yes.
Paul's become more passionate over the years. Like, he went from a tacit conservative
Mhm.
to a
Rabid liberal.
rabid liberal,
Yes.
probably like in 3 steps. It was
Yeah.
really interesting
Right.
to watch.
And most of it around the science stuff, honestly.
Right,
It is
honestly, yeah.
because it was, the conservatives stopped being data-based.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah,
all
exactly.
data-driven,
So when I would say things like, "Oh my God, this man said XYZ,"
Mhm.
Paul would say to me, "Show me."
Yeah. I
He
needed
would
it.
even do that to me,
Yep.
his wife,
Yep.
as if I was going to lie to him. Now, granted, back then, because, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
I would be like, "Fine," and
Right.
I'd show him the video.
Because
And
the things,
it was just so
stuff seemed
insane.
right,
It was just so
ridiculous
insane.
back then.
Back then, yeah. And we're talking in the beginning.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Now I
Because-
don't question it. Just
now
so you know. Sadly.
Because you can't.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I believe. It's when they play those games of, who said it?
Uh-huh. Right.
The mustache man or the orange man?
Right, yes.
And you can't tell the difference.
No.
It's fascinating because it's like, okay, this is really, I can't play this game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Did a demented person say this or did the orange man say this?
Exactly.
I don't know. Did one of your patients say this or the orange man say this? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he went on the tangent about batteries and sharks.
Yeah, right.
Before the election.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, what is he talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for people like us, and I love how they call it Trump derangement syndrome. As a therapist, as a diagnostician, and all this, it's like we're not the ones that are deranged.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that
it's like
gaslighting.
It is a
aspect,
when
right.
they use the term Trump derangement syndrome. It is a catchy way of them rejecting the new facts and holding on to their previous beliefs.
Right.
If we were truly deranged, okay, we would believe him.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and I say this as a clinician because derangement, by definition, if we go by way before even they started diagnosing, to be deranged is to be completely irrational and not tethered in reality.
Yeah.
So making up numbers and making up stories and all these other things,
or I just
know is deranged.
Right.
Because the voices in my head told me so.
Right.
So of course, as a client, when anybody says that to me, it's one of those, please don't use that. It's like, okay, fine. Mind you, we don't use the word deranged anymore in psychology, but still, it's like we're not the ones that have it. Are we really concerned that you believe this? Absolutely.
Yes. Which brings me back now to confirmation bias.
Right.
Okay. One of we mentioned already the autism and acetaminophen. It's a long word.
I don't know.
Right.
He couldn't say it the other day. So Paul has a stutter, so don't even.
Yeah, and that's it. I don't. Actually, I never say anything bad about him for not being able to say a word.
Yeah,
that happens. That happens to everybody. I've never really, where I have problems is with the inferences. Okay?
Yeah.
So with this study, there's one particular one that they're kind of hanging their hat I read it word for word, plus many of the underlying studies. This study is good. It's a meta-analysis. The people doing it are well-established scientists. I'm not.
Okay,
Go
an
ahead.
aside,
Mhm.
a meta-analysis
Yeah.
is where they go through all of the research done in a specific area.
Right. Not all of it.
Not
A
all of it. It's very
portion
specific.
of right.
Right. It's
Based on criteria, some type of
based on a
criteria.
criteria. Their
Yeah.
criteria being acetaminophen relationship to autism.
Right.
Okay. And there weren't a lot of studies.
Right.
First of all, there was
Mhm.
only 46 in that
46.
meta-analysis,
Right.
where normal meta-analysis usually have about thousands
Yeah,
of
there can
studies.
be a lot
Yeah.
more. Right. So this was a meta-analysis, 46 studies. Their conclusions, valid conclusions, that they did see overall that there was some type of relationship, an association. That is the way they wrote it, that there was an association. I think they were 19 of them were what they consider positive associations, which would be that there was a bad effect from
Acetaminophen.
the drug. Um, 6 of them were no, so didn't have any effect, and then some of them were actually negative effects, which means that they were actually something good that the drug did.
Right.
In the looking at neurodevelopmental disorders. Okay, so the article did not talk about specifically autism. Well, it did, but that wasn't
It was
the
just
criteria.
it was all
autism,
neurodevelopmental
right?
disorders.
Yes, across the board. Um, the administration seemed to have cherry picked what the information that they wanted. So, for example, when Trump said that there was no reason for any pregnant woman to take it, et cetera, and so on,
That's a
the
lot.
article specifically says the opposite of that. The article, the last 2 sentences of their conclusion, is that women should continue taking it because
It is the only safe pain
it is
reliever.
the only safe pain reliever, and a fever when a child is in utero is extremely dangerous.
Right.
And that we all, again, have a lot of science. Their only major conclusion that they made was that the women should limit it to only as they needed it. So
Right.
try to keep it low dosage and low amount of time, and that we need to do more research.
And
there's nothing causal in it.
Right.
Yeah.
The one of the other studies that RFK Jr. had mentioned, the women in, well, first of all, they started with 1,000 studies, and no, they started with 1,000 women because it was a Denmark study. 1,000 women, which they followed for 11 years. Out of those 1,000 women, a percentage had children who were diagnosed with autism. Out of that percentage of those, a small percentage of those took paracetamol, which is acetaminophen.
Right.
And even they said that the women who had any kind of effect were women who were taking paracetamol several times a day for at least 28 days. Now, any woman who is pregnant, okay, that requires to take pain relievers for longer than a couple of days, need to be under the care of a physician.
Right, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm talking about a woman who's been, I've been pregnant, and I have, they give you a laundry list of things you can't eat or do, and or whatever, and I didn't do any of those things. I didn't eat tuna. I didn't eat sushi. I didn't
definitely drink any wine.
I didn't drink any wine, even when the doctor's like, you could have a glass of. I didn't. Why? Because I actually know the math on that one, and that's not good. Bottom line is that dosage and prolonged dosage of any medication is bad while you're pregnant.
Yeah.
So blaming it on acetaminophen, you might as well have blamed it on sitting next to your grandpa who smokes.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's bad.
Right. So what we are seeing confirmation bias in action. Right. We're watching it play out in the media right now as press releases.
Right.
And
And RFK Jr. is just, I told you,
Right.
I told you it was an external. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. And every major medical association has come out to say you're wrong.
Right. Don't
You
say
read
that.
it wrong. And you've done it wrong. And stop blaming women
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah.
Because it's genetic. There's multifactorial things.
Yeah.
I want to mention one more bias because it's important.
Okay.
One of the things that we know, and this is something that's important for like people who are experiencing things like anxiety or depression, is that people with anxiety and or depression have what is called a pessimism bias. A pessimism bias is an overestimation that the likelihood, again, that your product of your prior thinking and the new data, that the likelihood's going to be something negative. You're like, oh, okay, so, oh gosh, I got laid off. Gosh, we're going to end up in the streets and we're going to have to live rough and probably die of exposure.
What? I think that we should be ending soon here.
Yeah.
And get back to that one.
You want to do that?
That's a big deal. Okay. Yeah. Because now we're talking about worldview. We're talking about wellness. We're talking about a lot there that could.
Well, I have a belief that you shouldn't tell me what to do. We've been married for 36 years. Right. Okay, so I agree with you. This is a good one. We'll talk about this next time.
Yeah.
We'll do depression and anxiety next time because
that's all in there.
That's all in there. So once again, this has been Dr. Elizabeth Reyes-Fournier
and Dr. Paul Reyes-Fournier.
And this is PsyABC's, where you get all of your psychology information from A to Z. Hit up our website, and you'll find definitions for psychological constructs, explanations, historical reviews on great psychologists and not so great psychologists. And we're also going to be offering CEUs to mental health professionals. So please hit that up. And once again, thank you to our producer, Ricky the Great. And Paul, I'll see you right after this.
Yes. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.